Hi, welcome to Empower Her. My name is Priya, and I have a very special guest with me today. Hi, Anita. How are you?
Hi, Priya. I'm well. I'm well.
If you haven't seen our episodes before, Empower Her is basically about, as the name suggests, women empowerment. I invite guests that I handpick, um, who are women leaders, who are women of color, but also women of every kind all over the world, basically, who are making a mark in the world, who are not only just playing a role of maybe a mother in their personal life, but also have different roles in their life. They are also maybe at a leadership role at an organization or in the government. Basically, the purpose of the podcast is to inspire other women, to have these women talk about their challenges and how they overcame those challenges and how they can talk about their wins and obviously their learnings as well, so that other women can learn from it and they can grow as well. So we will start with a quick introduction. Anita, if you can talk a little bit about your profile and give the audience a little bit more info about you.
For sure. Priya, I hope you don't mind. Do you mind if I do a quick land acknowledgement?
Yeah, yeah,
Is
no
that okay?
worries. Go ahead.
Okay,
Yeah.
fantastic. First of all, I'd like to respectfully acknowledge that Burnaby, where I'm speaking from, is located on the ancestral and unceded homelands of the Hunkaminam and the Squamish speaking people. And for that, I'm very truly grateful to be having this podcast on their lands and virtually meeting with you. So
Awesome. Amazing. Thank you.
sorry, it's kind of ingrained in us, and
Mm,
it's important to recognize,
yeah,
do the
definitely.
recognitions.
Yeah.
So, to introduce myself, as you mentioned, Priya, my name's Anita Bhandari. I'm currently the Chief Human Resources Officer at the City of Burnaby, where in my role is really centered around inclusivity, belonging, and equity within our organization. I have about 2 decades of experience. I've worked both in the private and public sector. And I decided to advance my career by taking on this opportunity. And I think a true foundation of what I do is, putting a voice out for those individuals so they can
Mhm.
truly feel like they belong and be heard where they might not have necessarily been in.
Yeah.
Um, I in my education wise is I do hold a master's of interdiscipline studies where I focus in on culture. I have a bachelor's in adult education because I think education and development is definitely an area of passion for me.
Mhm.
And I'm also a certified professional HR designation. And that's just a little bit about me.
Amazing. Thank you for the introduction.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, actually,
yeah.
Priya, do you mind if I just mention one other thing? Is I am a
Oh, yeah,
mom. I am a mother. I've got two amazing children. My daughter Saya Bandari, and then I've got a son named Jaden Bandari, and his name was actually Jadin, so as in
yeah.
pray day. And I have a husband as well. His name is Roger Bandari. Traditional name is Sanjeev.
Oh,
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah, that sounds lovely. Um, okay, so let's dive into the questions that I had for you. Um, let's talk a little bit about how you ended up in this role. Obviously, you talked a little bit about your education and everything, but give us a view into, your career journey. How, did you get started, and now how did you end up in this role now?
Sure. I think my career journey has been one of actual continuous growth. It's not something that I graduated from school and said, this is what I want to do. It's something that I've been quite fortunate that's landed in my path. It's really been shaped by a deep passion for people and knowing their stories. Even from the very beginning, I was driven by the desire of, making workplaces more inclusive and really trying to have a little bit more of a voice. But I think for me, my journey into becoming the CHRO and becoming more of a voice and sharing more about authenticity probably happened in 2021. Is I did experience some loss in my life. I lost three very important people, and I've spoken about this in other podcasts and
Mm.
conferences. Is I lost my father during COVID. I lost my first cousin, but I reference him as my nephew because he's the age of my children. One of the three hockey players that died in that horrific accident in Delta, Surrey. And then my grandpa a month later. And I think that was probably the start of where I started really realizing life is really short and we need to start being confident and comfortable in who we are and being a voice for inclusivity and belonging. So I think that was really a bit of what brought me into it. What that did for me at that point was kind of opened the door where I thought, you know what, maybe what I'm doing is not where I necessarily want to be. Maybe I want to do more. And the opportunity at the City of Burnaby came up. I ended up meeting with Leon and Noreen, and I think the rest was all history. We knew it was a good match. I knew Burnaby wanted to do some amazing things, and really advocate for their community, their people, and create a true diverse and inclusive workplace. And I thought that was perfect for me. So that was kind of the
Mm.
journey into becoming the CHRO.
Yeah, first of all, I'm sorry to hear that. The loss that you talked about. I know it must have been tough at that time. Um, but obviously, when it comes to grief, there are so many stages that you go through. So I am, glad to see that you're able to see growth, and you were able to, kind of, um, get the learning from it, I guess. Because yeah, I mean, obviously everybody faces different kind of adversities in their life, but it's important to reflect on that, and learn anything that you can from that. So yeah, that's really important, and yeah, that's admirable in a way.
Oh, thank you. I always thought I chat about my family quite a bit because I think for me they're truly the roots of why I am who I am today. And everybody has their journey as they grow up, but I always look at like my dad, for example. He always spoke about working hard, doing the right thing, and he was always one that supported a lot of individuals as they came to Canada, where I talk about how he housed a lot of people in our house just so they could get their feet on the
Mm,
ground and succeed. And I, even my nephew Ronan that passed away, Ronan Sharma, he was doing a video on diversity in sport
mm,
and some of the racism and
mm,
discrimination that they face in their journey even nowadays as
mm,
Indo-Canadian you know representatives in this field. And
mm,
even my daughter, I look at is she plays for Team BC, and we talk a lot about diversity and breaking down those
mm,
barriers. And I think even my grandpa, I talk a lot about him because he was one that always talked about belonging is
mm.
including everybody and truly honoring and respecting where everybody comes from. So I think those are really important things. And for
Yeah.
me, that grief actually opened up my eyes to truly understand what they were advocating for their whole lives.
Yeah. I mean, I'm really glad to see that, especially with like the generation that is coming up, and obviously the parenting that is going on right now. It has definitely changed, and obviously every family is different. Some people are really great with communicating and their values, and it's really nice to see when there's like open communication where everybody is talking about their values, and things like these, like diversity or inclusion, because sometimes those can be like topics that people are not comfortable with. So I'm glad that you're able to talk to your kids about that, and your kids are openly talking to you about it, and they're openly discussing diversity. So
Of
yeah.
course, of course. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about, obviously this is a leadership role. Are there any principles that you're guided by when you approach any kind of like managing or developing your team when it comes to, leadership?
Yeah, when I look at my style of leadership, I think it's really deeply rooted in empathy, integrity, and commitment to equity. Those are kind of the foundations that I really look at. I believe in leading by example and showing my team that doing the right thing is more than just a policy. It's a practice that we need to live by every day at work. And I think that really helps. It's important to me that each team member feels empowered to bring in their unique selves and their perspective to the table to work every day. And by valuing diversity and encouraging open dialogue, I think we can bring together an even stronger team and make it more, innovative and come to solutions together.
Mm,
This approach not only aligns with my professional values, but I think it's a large piece of my mission and our mission as an organization. It's about, always stay true to myself. Some of the decisions that we make, really might be difficult, but I know if we do the right thing, that we can always stand behind our decisions. And, that's kind of one of the principles that I look at is just do the right thing. Always do the right
mm.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, I am very passionate about equality and equity, and I talk about it a lot whenever I can. But something that I've noticed with a lot of people is they don't understand the concept of equality or equity.
Yeah.
They so if you had to explain to maybe your kids about equity,
Yeah.
how would you explain it to them?
Whew, I haven't thought about this, but that's actually a good question because I read this article a long time ago and it's always resonated in my mind. It was an article about equity. It was an
Mm,
EDI article, and what they talked about was when people approach equity, they try to say that it's something equal for each person, but that does
exactly.
not necessarily equal equity. And
Yeah.
this article had this illustration that's always stuck in my mind. It's
Mm,
of a bike,
mm,
and then they have three different sizes of people,
mm,
height wise, structure wise,
mm.
and they said when you're looking at equity, you need to take a different perspective. It's not one size fits all. It's
Yeah.
about truly creating that space where each person is able to achieve the same thing
Mm,
with the tools they need to be able
mm,
to do it. So
mm,
I guess if I had to explain that to my kids, it would go back to kind of some of those deep rooted,
mm,
disciplines that I think about is having empathy. That's not
mm,
sympathy, but empathy,
mm,
really understanding where somebody comes from, their perspectives,
mm.
integrity, really holding yourself to that level where you're looking at the individual and truly respecting them and what you do, you
Yeah.
can stand behind. And then I think, the commitment to creating that space where everybody truly can see themselves, where they're
Mm,
heard, valued, and able to express themselves is really important. And it's funny, me and my kids talk about this quite a bit because my daughter and my son, my daughter actually did face a lot of bullying and self-doubt and not really understanding who she was as an individual. And unfortunately, even for her, a lot of her surroundings, especially in the sport she plays, is mainly Caucasian,
mm,
females. And
mm,
she started questioning her place in this sport. And we'd
mm,
step back and I'd say to her is, Sai, do you love what you do? Yeah, I love it, Mom. I said, Saya, then you need to find your space in here. You don't need anybody else to give you that assurance. You be
mm,
confident in who you are and
mm,
you stand up for what's right and you
mm,
continue to drive forward. So I don't know if
mm.
I answered your question, but I think, it just kind of goes back to some of
Mm.
my philosophy is just do the right thing and be
Yeah.
open minded and accepting and don't judge people. Just
Yeah.
don't judge them. You don't know where they come from.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, yeah, I think you definitely answered it. And yeah, I think it's all about, recognizing that, as you said, everybody comes from like a different place, and everybody needs are different. So we just need to like recognize that, okay, the needs are not equal. So, we cannot really provide one thing that would fit all.
Yeah, it can't be one size fits all, and that's going to be a key piece because I do notice sometimes people will go in and they'll say equity and everybody should get this, but
Mhm.
it doesn't work that way. It really
Exactly.
isn't about an item, and it's really about stepping back and thinking, okay, well, what are those barriers that are preventing someone from achieving their goals? And I think we as leaders, it doesn't matter what discipline, ethnicity, background, gender you come from, it's we all need to have the same kind of philosophy is, hey, you know
Mhm.
what? Let's support our staff. Let's make them successful and let's remove those barriers that are preventing them from reaching their full potential. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So, I mean, obviously, since you started in this role, what are you seeing some of, the challenges for especially human resources that have been coming up?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different challenges we do face. I think right now, one of the biggest challenges is really ensuring that everyone feels a genuine sense, particularly, in a city as diverse as Burnaby.
Mm,
I think COVID and, certain things that society has faced in the last couple of years has really opened up eyes for people. And I think it's made us recognize that, life is really precious. And if we want people, to really succeed, stay with us, be engaged, and grow with us, then we need to create that space where they see themselves and they belong. So, we're addressing this challenge actively. We're listening to our employees. We're doing needs assessments. We're introducing policies around equity, well-being. There's still work to do, and there's always going to be work to do. It's an evolution. It's not just about meeting your legal requirements. And I think if
yeah.
organizations are focusing on the tick boxes, they're not going to get it right. It's really about creating a space where everyone feels safe, respected, and valued. For instance, I know Burnaby, we've created a Burnaby promise. That's a promise of how we, as everybody here at the city, and it's a promise between the union, staff, and management of how we're going to act, how we're going to support our citizens, and how we're going to show up every day and how we want to be treated. And it's
Mm,
you know it's a new way of looking at a code of conduct. It's more of a commitment. It's our promise. And then we've also created a Burnaby Moving Forward initiative, which I'm a sponsor of as well. And it's really about, our strategic goal about fostering a community first approach, building great teams, and acting with integrity. Again, it goes back to what I keep saying is doing
yeah.
the right thing. And that's really what we've been doing is, um, uh, facing this obstacle and then trying to get people back to feeling very comfortable belonging and growing with us.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's the thing that, you need to find ways to, implement different kind of efforts that you mentioned that, you're already doing, or you are already maintaining. But yeah, I think that that's the part where sometimes, it can be challenging to come up with like these different kind of efforts, and, see what is working, what is not working, and then, change those efforts as well. So yeah, it's really nice to see how you're working on those efforts. And yeah, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, I can't, you know what, I can't take credit for this, and I don't think anybody should take individual credit. I think in order to do things, you need a team and you
Mm,
need support and you need, buy-in. And I think I've been quite fortunate where I've got an absolutely amazing leader here at the City of Burnaby, Leon Gauss. He's our CAO, and he's always advocated for the stuff of doing the right thing and supporting these initiatives at the city and really leading them,
mm,
and giving us, the leaders of the city, the tools in order to, make this reality.
mm.
So I think I've been quite fortunate. And
Mm.
yeah.
Awesome. Um, so when it comes to, attracting, top talent, in, such a competitive market right now, how do you do that, especially, within the public sector?
Yeah, I think we have to be creative. I when I look at attracting top talent, I think again I try to stick away from those cliche words. It's, how do we get the best people? Just really simplified. How do we get the best people that will, really jive and fit into our organization? For me, I started changing our approach on this. And really embodying the thought that it's a two-way relationship. No longer is it where, people are dying to find employment. I think it's more as in people have more options, and people are starting to really look at organizations where they can see themselves grow and be a part of. And I think what that's done is it causes us to also look at things differently. Is, when we look at people, we interview them, and we, meet with them, it's start more with a fit. Is really understand, is, are you going to fit with us, and are we going to fit with you, and taking that approach instead. There's still some more work to do to try to attract that top talent. But I think for me is just more advocating and sharing why Burnaby is absolutely amazing and the things we're doing, which, I have an absolutely amazing EDI manager, Vishad Deplal, who does advocate and share a lot of what we're doing here in Burnaby. And even for ourselves, as I get our teams to start sharing a lot more of that, not just for us to, showcase what we're doing, but really to demonstrate to other organizations and people on what is the right thing to do. And, look how amazing it is when you celebrate these. And what I think it does is it also opens up the eyes for others to see the different type of values and beliefs we have here, because I think that would attract people with similar type of values and beliefs here to our organization. So that's really it. It's just really sharing and really hoping that people can see that we're truly that wonderful.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Do you have any advice for people who are pursuing, human resources, maybe in the public sector as well, and maybe they want to move into a leadership role as well? What advice would you give them?
Don't give up. Just don't give up. I noticed that quite a bit is okay, my staff laughs because I always have a lot of sayings, and I like to reflect, and they find it kind of humorous because I can never get the sayings quite right. So I'm not going to say one on this podcast because I'll never live it down. But I do have one in my head. No, I remember a long time ago somebody said something to me, and this was when I first ventured into, this type of field. Is I was finding it difficult at that time. The economy was not quite where it was, and there was not a lot of opportunities. And don't forget, I am an Indo-Canadian woman, and I face my own barriers trying to get employment, even with my last name when people see it on a resume, right?
Mm,
But I remember them saying something to me, and it stuck in my head. Is it doesn't matter how many resumes you put out there. It's that one opportunity you get that actually works out is the win. So I guess for me, what ended up sticking in my head was just keep doing it, applying, because, maybe those no's are the ones that are not the good fit for you.
mm,
And that one yes you get
mm,
is going to be a life changer, and it's going to really be, where you're meant to be. So I
mm,
think just don't give up. And then I think for me, if you're talking about actual substance behind it, I think what we need to start doing is moving away from the cookie cutter of this is what you need to be putting on your resumes and your applications. I
mm,
think what you need to do is two pieces. One is read that job posting, understand what they're truly looking for, see if you actually fit into it, because again, it's a two-way relationship. Do
mm,
your research on the organization to see if, that's the type of organization you want to be at, and then authentically apply for that position. And what I mean by authentically is be your true self in your application,
Mm,
your cover letter. Like, don't make it a cookie cutter where you popped it out of AI, where we're going to see everybody's exactly the same. Do something unique to yourself. Tell them a little bit about you so they know who you are. And on that resume, be authentic. Like,
mm,
tell them what you've done and don't be shy. If you've done some absolutely amazing things out there, share them.
mm,
And then one of the key pieces is follow up. Either follow up if you've been successful or not successful, find out, like, what is it that maybe prevented me from moving forward or being successful, so you learn.
mm,
And you might be surprised what you hear back. So
mm.
there's my advice, and I hope it works. And for all those that are looking for employment, I'm wishing everybody luck because I think it's important.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Um, and when it comes to, especially women in leadership roles, obviously, as you mentioned, there are definitely barriers when it comes to it. Um, is there anything specific that you would like to tell them when it comes to moving in the hierarchy? I would say any woman who is, trying to move up into a leadership role.
Yeah, I feel like I read a lot and I don't. I don't have enough time, but you're making me think of a book. It was Sheryl Sandberg. I think it was
Mm,
Lean In. And
mm,
sorry, it makes me think about certain messages she had within the book and the stories. And it's really about, showing up, being confident, and really leaning in and putting yourself out there. I think for me, as a woman of color, as a woman pursuing, leadership roles, I think you need to be confident. Because a lot of women have self-doubt, or they don't think they're good enough, or
mm,
they think about, I have all these other things to do. Am I going to be able to do this?
mm,
If you truly want something, you can make it a priority and, go for it. Don't let anybody tell you you're not good enough or you can't achieve it, because that's not true.
mm,
There's amazing women leaders out there that have done, remarkable things that are changing the world. And I think for me is that's the way you look at it. And I always say this to, I actually say this to my son Jaden, is because he plays hockey and sometimes he has some self-doubt, as in, can I do this? And I'm like, Jane, you're an absolutely amazing individual, an athlete, and you've got everything that they have. You have two arms, you have two legs, you have a smart head. Like, you're just a great kid. And so there's nothing that really separates you except for you.
mm,
So I think if I could give advice to people is, you're no different than them. So don't, you know, compare yourself to others, compare yourself
mm,
to yourself, and just go
mm,
for it. Yeah.
mm. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's great advice. Um, so in the context of, any workplace, what does women empowerment look like? Because I know it can mean different things to different people. But if, you know, um, yeah, if you had to, explain it from your perspective, what would you say?
Well, I don't know if I'm going to really define women empowerment, because I think empowerment in general is a good enough statement. And I
Mm,
think what you need to do is just really be confident and be able to express who you are, where you come from, and believe in yourself. And that, I think, gives you that foundation. I think as a woman in leadership, we must, continue to break down barriers and pave that pathway for the future generation. Personally, my daughter's strength inspires me daily. I look at her as a young woman and the
mm,
things she does. So, my mission is really to create a space where everyone can see themselves, truly feel a sense of belonging, and reach their full potential. I think as women in leadership, it's about removing those obstacles and fostering that environment where fulfillment and success are within everyone's reach. It's that commitment, to transcend that sex, race, religion, and other distinctions. It's
mm,
about really doing what's right and ensuring everyone has the opportunity to thrive. So I think that's what we need to do,
Mhm.
and the empowerment just kind of comes within it, right? Is once you do that, then you provide people that space so they can truly feel empowered and reach, their full potential.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I think especially with, obviously, I'm glad to see that like that there's so much work being done in different workplaces when it comes to women empowerment, whether it's, all these, women in leadership roles, maybe mentoring other women or, kind of like sponsoring them as well, or just, kind of like guiding them as well or coaching them too. I think that makes a huge impact.
it
So yeah, I think that should be something that we should continue doing in order to like
for sure.
uplift and support other women.
Yeah, and you know what, Priya, I'm gonna compliment you here as well as and I, I mentioned this too, is I don't I have a lot of items on my plate, and usually I'm quite busy, but when I see, opportunities like this podcast that you're putting
Mm,
out, or other ones, I support them for a certain reason, because I
mm,
I do believe, the message you're sending about, empowering women and is really important. So even
mm,
what you're doing, I think right now, is being a true advocate, creating this platform where people, can share their stories and empower and encourage others. So, kudos to you, because I think, you are an inspiration and somebody, I think, that,
mm.
is helping women have a strong voice. So
Yeah.
thank you.
No, thank you as well. I mean, as you said, obviously it cannot be done, just solo. But yeah, I mean, even you as an example is, this is a great example that, just supporting other women who are maybe like doing some kind of an effort, is also empowering women. So even you taking part in this podcast and talking about your journey is also empowering women. So thank you.
We work as a team.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So when it comes to the role that you're playing in the HR department and making sure that all the policies are and practices are in place, they are inclusive and supportive. How do you balance that with personal responsibilities as well, but career growth too?
Yeah, I think for me, it's funny. I just had this conversation with somebody earlier today. One of the things I've chatted with my department about, as as I started here, was truly having a balance. And work-life balance is not about working 8 to 5. It's about truly finding that balance, what fulfills you. So whether that be, having, uh, time for your kids, attending sporting events, finishing your work, meditating, exercise, whatever it is having that well balanced cycle that makes you whole. Um, so for me, what I do in order to achieve that and also fulfill the role of the CHRO is, I step back, I be mindful, and I also lean on others as well, right, for that support, because I don't think anything is done individually. I think it
Mm,
does take a team to achieve these, large initiatives and make change. So, for me, I'm quite fortunate. I have an absolutely amazing team here at the city. Is I've got, my deputy director, Justina. I've got my director of employment services, Nancy. I've got my senior manager of EDI, Vashad. I've got my senior manager of safety and disability, Sergio, legal counsel, Natalie, Tara, my manager, my senior manager of training and development. I've got Stephanie, my manager of compensation, and of course Erwin, which I
mhm,
adore to pieces. He's my EA. He keeps me in line, and he's absolutely amazing and makes sure I'm successful in everything I do. So I guess what I'm trying to say is it's not just me, it's an entire team that makes this happen. And makes it successful. I don't know if I really answered your question, but I think in a roundabouts way, what I'm trying to say is,
Mm,
having a great group of people working beside me is
mm,
what really makes me successful and able to balance this out and create these programs. And I think they also help inform these programs so they are the best, and they, look at it from their perspective. Are we meeting our legal requirements? Are we meeting our ethical requirements? Are we impacting our staff and community appropriately? Yeah,
mm. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think you made a point about something really important, which is, leaning on other people. A lot of people struggle with that sometimes. Maybe it's like the perfectionist in them, which is like, oh, like, okay, no, I'm going to do this too. And, I can do this, maybe in a better way. And, you just keep on things, uh, you know, adding to your list, and you just, maybe don't really take help, or you don't know how to ask for help. But yeah, as a leader, especially, I think that's really an admirable quality, that you're able to ask for help, or you are able to delegate. You're also able to lean on others as well, and not only it helps you and supports you, but I think it also kind of enables other people as well in your team to learn and grow, in their careers as well. Because I think, that's a really important part of the leader as well, which is, making sure the people around you are also learning and growing.
for
So
sure.
that's a quality that, if whoever is listening, you're moving into a leadership role, or you're just looking to improve as a leader, I think that's a quality that you should definitely adapt.
Thank you. It's I'm also quite fortunate because I think here at the city I have a great, colleague group, as well as, at the GM table we have absolutely amazing GMs, and we tend to lean on each other as friends, as, not only colleagues, and
Mm,
we support each other even in some of those difficult decisions, or when we're trying to be, a little bit more strategic and looking how we can support our group. So I guess it doesn't only end there.
mm,
I'm quite fortunate. I think I've been fortunate where I have that support network all around, that makes my work absolutely amazing every day, and I love it. I truly, truly love what I do. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I can see that. um, so when it comes to, the role of HR, especially in the public sector, um, what should the leaders be focusing on in the future?
Yeah, I think it kind of goes back to what I chatted about, is the Burnaby promise. And I don't think I think for people and culture is what we reference our department as. Um, it's about people putting the people first. Um, it's about taking a community approach, really building great teams so we can support our community, our citizens, and even our internal people, and really come down to that integrity piece. It's really important because we're accountable to the public in everything we do. So, I think if we can keep those items at the core of everything we do, you know, that kind of shapes kind of our plans moving forward, our strategies, and what we
Mm,
need to put in place. Yeah.
yeah, definitely. Um, and when it comes to, the field of human resources, I'm just curious if you are seeing any kind of like evolution in that, in the future as well. Um, are there any, recent new things or new trends that have developed, that you would like to share with the audience?
I'm going to go out on a whim a little bit different than what everybody will probably hear in books, but I personally think the evolution is more of a people approach. I think, unfortunately, the traditional HR department was really structured on legal principles, and this is what you need to do. I think we need to become a little bit more empathetic and start looking at there's a way of doing certain things, and what is the right way of doing it, and really putting our practices around there, because legally we might be able to do something,
Mhm.
but is that the right thing to do? Is it the fair thing to
Mhm.
do? How do we do it so it lands well? So I think that's a little bit of a trend, is a shift in the way that we do things and what guides us
Mhm.
to the end. And I think the other part that I'm noticing is we have to become a little bit more creative on how we sell our employer, a little bit
Mhm.
more out there, and also relying a little bit more on metrics, because I find, especially for us in the government sector, is decisions we make have to be backed up somehow.
Mhm.
Um, and the last but not least, which I think everybody's talking about, is AI,
Mhm.
is
Mhm.
how do we manage in a world where technology is truly a driving force and evolving faster than anything we could ever imagine? Is how do we keep up to that, and make sure we're truly not hiring that AI bot, but
Mhm.
somebody who is bringing what we truly need. So again, marrying them together. So those are the things that I think I see coming up. I
Mhm.
don't know if they're proven through any research, but these are the ones that I'm seeing here. Yeah.
Nice, nice. And yeah, so I think most of the time I just end the episode with, asking, can you share 5 things that you're grateful for?
5 things that I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for my family. That includes my dog Jax. Uh, I'm grateful for having a shelter, a place to live, a place I can call my home. And I'm grateful that, I have food on my table and I'm able to provide for my family. Uh, I am grateful for my team. I'm very fortunate,
Mhm.
to have such an absolutely amazing team. And I am grateful for being the CHRO at the City of Burnaby. I'm very thankful and grateful that I got this opportunity. And
Mhm.
I guess if you want that, those are my 5 things. And there's more. I'm
Yeah,
grateful for
yeah,
a lot of
yeah,
things and
yeah,
thankful
yeah,
for a
yeah.
lot of things. But yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's amazing. And obviously, you're able to do the work that you're trying to do with, people and inclusion and diversity, through this role. So yeah, that's amazing. And definitely something that, anybody would be grateful for.
yeah.
But yeah, again, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and, sharing about not only just about human resources and talking about that as well, but also talking about yourself and your career journey, your personal growth too. And it will definitely help our audience so much. And obviously, keep doing the work that you're doing. It's amazing. And yeah, have a really nice week ahead.
Thank you, Priya. I feel like you've taken the words out of my mouth. I want to again, and I want to end it with a thank you to you. I
Oh,
honestly, I look at these type of podcasts, this advocacy kind of work, and truly being a voice out there. So I'm going to thank you for inviting me and considering me to be part of your podcast. And I'm going to thank you for creating the space so people can share these stories and inspire others, to truly reach their full potential. So great work on you, and you keep up this amazing work, and I'll be watching you. I'll be watching you.
awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great day.